Hi, it's Jim Owens, and I want to talk to you about something really important today. I want to talk to you about gorillas. But before I do that, let's try to talk about a few other things. Now that I've got your attention, because gorillas are important for today's conversation that we're going to have. A few years ago, I was in a conversation with a guy who was very successful. He had all the outward trappings of success. He was a good looking guy, very well dressed. He was kind of the envy of his peers. And several of us were asking him what we thought or what he thought was the key to his success. And we all thought perhaps he would say, well, my clients trust me. He's a high performing salesperson. Or perhaps it was going to be his expertise in his field. Or maybe it was going to be the fact that he was a great networker. We didn't really know. But he said something very telling. He said, fear. And after exploring that a little bit with him, he said, I spend all of my time afraid of being broke, being a failure, and of just not mattering in the world, being mediocre. And it seemed to me interesting that he didn't really enjoy the things about his life that made him successful. He was fraught with anxiety and worry and things that I think robbed him of the joy of doing his job and doing it extremely well. And that just struck me and the rest of us a lot. We were talking amongst a group of people who were relatively high performing individuals, type A's, if you will. And all of us were surprised to hear that. And we appreciated his vulnerability, but it made me think a little bit about what the price of success is, at least in worldly terms. And it also made me think a little bit about gorillas. Yeah, so you're wondering what's up with that. There's a term in psychology that's a pretty well documented fact. It's something called inattention blindness, in which there's been a couple of studies done where people who either are hyper focused on things or are zoned out often miss important things that are going on in life. They might miss a traffic signal, they might miss a number of other things. But one of the studies is a group of students who gather together, and four students in particular, and they weave in and out of one another's path and toss a ball between them. And the observer is instructed to count the number of times that the ball is tossed between the students. And in the midst of counting, into the screen walks a man in a gorilla suit. And he beats his chest for just a brief moment, and he walks off the screen. And the number of people who fail to see the gorilla is rather remarkable. It's something close to half the people who observe it who've absolutely failed to see something pretty amazing appear in the screen. And so, as I've paid some attention to inattention blindness, I think it makes me understand a little bit about how people behave sometimes and how they're not really aware of what's going on around them. And as leaders, people who would be leaders, whether they're teachers or whether they're trying to lead in their families, whether they're trying to lead at work or in their communities, can often miss really important things because they're either hyper focused or they're fraught with anxiety and fear and worry, things that really distract their performance as a leader or as a salesperson. Or really, we're all leaders, I think, if we recognize that people are paying attention to us. We're not perfect and we're not required to be, but the cost of inattention blindness seems to me to be pretty high. And so today you find things in the world where there are a lot of conversations about mindfulness training, things that are designed to help us recognize how we feel and ask ourselves why we behave the way we do and really what's going on around us in the world. And I think the ability to see those things is imperative if we're going to be successful, particularly as it relates to fear and anxiety. Every athlete knows, any athlete that's really ever tried to focus on his or her performance looks to develop something called muscle memory that really allows them to do things that are effortless, that are remarkable to the rest of us. But over the years, they've learned how to control their own anxieties and to shut out the noise of the crowd, if you will, when they stand at a foul line with 40,000 people screaming at them, or when they're about to hit a golf ball that may mean the difference between making millions of dollars or simply making the cut on the PGA World Tour. They've learned how to focus their mind in such a way that they forget past failures or worrying about the next shot or play or match that they're going to play. And it's odd to me that we all spend so much time focusing on developing our skill sets and perhaps understanding our market or our career path, the things that are going on that maybe drive us to be successful. And we often miss the cost that's paid by that kind of focus. And I think that's why mindfulness training is so valuable to people, to sit down and have some moments of quiet reflection, to think about these things, these questions about why I behave the way I do, and to ask themselves if they are a carrier, if you will, of peaceful performance within their organization, within their families, or if they're a carrier of anxiety and frustration. And I think, like the gorilla, there's a hidden cost for many of us who don't spend the time, really invest, which is a word I like better than spend, because invest means you're expecting a return. So in this brief conversation we're having today, I think that it's important to take some time in our lives to examine ourselves carefully, to examine our performance and not worry so much about the results. Results are important for any of us who are in a profession where our performance is related to our income. But being able to close off the fear and anxiety and the worry really requires a deliberate sort of training that we would give to ourselves in physical fitness preparation. We'll give our time and energy to 30 minutes of exercise a day, many of us will, or even more. But we give little time to the training of our minds to kind of address the attitudes and the fears, the worries, the things that might happen, the catastrophizing catastrophizing, is that the right word? Anyway, awfulizing about things that might happen. And I would encourage you today to make sure you've built some time in your life to do some reflection. Some people call it meditation. Some people call it just sitting quietly and reflecting about their day. Most of us have considered this mindfulness thing, or meditation as people call it, to be the purview of yogis and Buddhist monks in incense-filled temples. But even today, what's happening is that large Fortune 500 companies, professional athletes, teams like Pete Carroll's team, the Seattle Seahawks, guys like Michael Jordan, and other high-performing CEOs have learned the value of this mindfulness training so that they can really focus on what's important going on around them. I think it allows us to separate our fears and anxieties over results from our desire to just be responsible and to take care of the things that we can control, which is really very small. I heard a guy speak years ago about, he drew circles, concentric circles, and the interior circle, which was the smallest, was our center of control, and the exterior circle, which was the largest, was our center of our circle of worry or of concern, and in the middle was our center or circle of influence. So I'd encourage you today to spend some time working on your calendar in the sense of carving out some time for yourself to look for the gorilla, to find out what is coming into the screen in your life that you should be seeing, and that would keep you from the distractions that get in the way of performing well, the mental formations, things that we don't even recognize about ourselves that get in the way of our own success or happiness. And I use the word success without regard to money or position or things of that nature, but simply being satisfied and content. I don't know how you feel about this. I've written an article that I hope someone will pick up and publish with a little more detail on it. I would encourage you to Google inattention blindness, look on YouTube. You'll find some interesting videos, and you'll now know to be looking for the gorilla probably. But as you go out through your week this week, it's now Tuesday, August the 30th, and for the rest of this week, I hope you'll look for the gorilla, and that maybe you will see him beating his chest, and that you will find yourself more mindful of the distractions that get in the way of your achieving the kind of contentment and peace that you'd like to have in your life. Hope that's helpful. I'm Jim Owens. It's always a pleasure. I always look forward to hearing from you, your comments, observations, or thoughts, whether they're positive or whether they're constructive criticism, or if they're just criticism. If you feel the need to tell me I should stop doing these things, I might heed your counsel. But most of you have been kind to say you enjoy these sorts of things, and so I'll be looking for the gorilla with you. Hope you have a great day, and a good week. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Jim Owens. Have a good day.